Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the W2 Report. Before we get started, we have a little bit of admin before we get started. Starting next month in June, we are looking to perform live in concert in the Dallas, Texas area. So if you are in that area and you are attending Anime Fest or Game Fest, please vote for our panel coming up next month. So, with that set out of the way, let us go into the ground rules with Lord Crocosquirrel.
Rule number one: don't be a dick. If you think you're, and rule number two: if you think you're being a dick, stop and please refer to rule number one.
Also, we have a nice little disclaimer for you today. We are not lawyers, and the basis of our analysis of this lawsuit that we're going to be discussing here today is going to be our interpretation thereof. Do not take our word as gospel. So, with that said...
This is not legal advice under any circumstances.
Right. With that being said, however, we do have a lawsuit going on right now in the Southern District of New York, and it involves our favorite publisher, Nacon. So
yeah, Nacon, they are Timorons. They did a series of stupid over the course of a couple of years.
Right.
They secured a license for the Paranoia tabletop role-playing game. To turn it into a computer game. I have a copy of this game. I picked it up while it was actually present on the Epic Store. It is no longer, and it disappeared without my knowing years ago. This was a whole thing, and actually represents a valid use of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So, hold on to your butts, people. This is going to be a really interesting sort of ride. All right, you want to start with? Do we want you to start with the contract?
Let's start with.
You get to do this thing, assuming you do all of these other things.
Let's go over the contract first, because this was filed with the answer that Goldberg and
Kastikian
filed with their response to the complaint. All right. So with that said, let us go over this little contract right here. Shall you?
It's really cute and hilarious. We're not going to spend any real time, a huge amount of time on any part of this, but
right.
We will be covering it in detail at a later time in another place where we're actually known to do this shit.
Yes. So the three things that I wanted to point out are. Let's see here. This little section right here called net revenues.
Which little? Okay. Oh, I can see it. Yay.
So, I want to point out this little phrase right here. I typed it up so that way we can read it. Actually, read it from the scan.
Well, you could just increase the magnification.
That's true. That's true.
A standard PDF reader, not.
Yeah.
I prefer Adobe personally. There we go.
All right. Fees paid to or deducted by unaffiliated third-party digital or retail distribution and payment processing platforms. An example: Valve.
No, such as Valve.
Such as.
Microsoft, the Xbox Marketplace, or Sony. They do not mention no friendo at all anywhere. They also don't. They also don't mention iOS or Android. And I think it's a little later on that that it is mentioned that they're not allowed to, that anything that wasn't specifically mentioned wasn't allowed.
Yes, and also there is a section. There is a section in the publishing agreement that it must include publishing the digital game on the PC platform, and optionally may include one or more console platforms. And all the way down on page 3, any console platform not specifically included in the publishing agreement, or as applicable, the self-publishing plans, will be excluded from the license granted under this agreement, each an excluded platform. Now, what is an excluded platform?
Yeah, now let's step back. Let's step back just a second. Okay. Goldberg and Kostic are the plaintiffs here.
No, they're the defendants.
They own the IPs for the Paranoia tabletop role playing game that is being adapted here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
These people made a game that didn't work to come to what Kostic and Goldberg thought was actually valid.
Right.
They were told that several times.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see here. Yes, and because Nacon did this thing, a lawsuit
Actually,
was
their subsidiary.
Yeah.
Because, fuck that. It's not going paying the lawyers, so.
Mm-hmm. We get this lovely gem.
They own Cyanide and Big Ben's ass
in
its entirety. Not
right.
Like Elon buying the fuck out of Twitter.
Yeah. So we get this lovely gem from the Southern District of New York,
wherein they filed a lawsuit because reasons they didn't. It doesn't seem like they waited until Nacon could sue them in a French court. They went to the Southern District of New York and said, "Hey, the fuckwits over there."
No, actually, Nacon sued them in the Southern District of New York.
Was that no? Oh, you're right. They are the plaintiffs. Goldberg and Kostic are defendants here. I apologize. I was wrong. I don't know why Nacon didn't drag them into a French court. They stood a chance of winning.
Well, probably because they were U.S.
better chance of winning.
Probably because they were United States citizens and they had to sue them here.
Oh, that's not impossible. Hopefully your voice is coming through better on the live stream than it is here.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so
Cyanide Studios were the developers here, and that shit got bent over.
Mm-hmm.
There was some serious annoyance.
Right. And basically, what had happened is they submitted a digital game for approval that reportedly had 74 bugs. And
well, that was the number that wound up being on the spreadsheet. Yes, on the spreadsheet in November.
Yes, Big Ben and Cyanide. Now, which defendant's agent and hand-picked quality assurance evaluator approved, and 2 other quality assurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Kostikian and Goldberg told them that an approval by the outside QA people was not a waiver of their right of approval.
Right.
This was spelled out in the various emails.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for the. I am waiting for Big Ben / Cyanide to file a dismissal, or to try and file a dismissal, despite the fact that they're not actually entitled to one.
Right.
Because the agreement itself was materially breached.
Right. Who did it first remain the question.
First person to admit that happiness is mandatory. The game did have some significant problems on the software level, but the QA folks only went through the gameplay.
Right.
And said, no, this is fine. Dog sick, and we have again the meme of the dog sipping his coffee with the words, "This is fine" at the bottom, in a room that's on fire.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I would like to know what that Third Amendment actually says. Because I would reckon, because Epic Games did not launch until the Epic Games Store didn't launch until 2018.
Yeah, in 2017 they were doing all the prep work and lining up exclusives.
Mm-hmm. Because they
were working for a year and a half or 2 years before the Epic Games Store actually launched to secure games.
Right.
So millions of dollars going to Cyanide Studios is
reason enough
for a game that isn't supposed to, that for a platform that doesn't even open until 2018. Not unheard of, because games take a while to develop.
Right.
Happiness is mandatory went beyond, was actually it was over time and over budget.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens when you give a pack of programmers $10.
Right.
I don't think that's literal. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's literally true that they were given $10 to do the whole game on, but the relative equivalent thereof.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt there were millions of dollars involved there. And the countersuit's hilarious.
Yes, we will go over that later.
Because Goldberg and Kostikian did not, under any circumstances, pull any friggin' punches.
No.
There was here is the licensing agreement. They fucked with it. They need to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
They need to not do this. Ever. Needless to say, the chances of Happiness is Mandatory being released as it was expected to be are now 0. If you have a copy of the game, you are one of the lucky ones.
Right.
But it'll never be updated. So maybe not. I don't know. Doubtless there will be Kostikian and Goldberg will approve somebody else to do this game.
Mm-hmm.
But it won't be anybody associated with Nacon.
Not in any circumstances.
And the thing is, this all went completely under the fucking radar for years.
Yes, and believe it or not,
radar for years. It just disappeared one day from the Epic Store, and nobody knew why.
Right.
It took a little while, and it took until the original lawsuit was filed to realize that it was smoking boots time.
Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, it took even longer for us to even remotely associate ourselves with the story. because actually
I was actually talking to Sanji about the game because it was kind of clever, but it had its bugs. Here, try this game on for Sanji. Wait a second, where the fuck did it go?
yeah, and it actually was.
I was going to use an example of the actual tabletop game. That was probably not a good move, at least not for Nacon, because now we're talking about them.
Yeah. And believe it or not, there was a thread made on Reset Era talking about this, and
which is what actually led us to
this document right here.
Led us actually to piece of much and some of the fun information we've got on hand.
Yeah. Okay. We don't need to go over the parties because we know who they are. And I did black censor the addresses for YouTube.
Well, we're gonna go over this lawsuit in detail later.
Yes.
Remember that.
And
there was a countersuit filed by Kostikian and Goldberg.
Right.
So we're probably going to do a really long live stream and lump those two things together so that everybody's got this sitting around. Jurisdiction and venue, yes, personal jurisdiction over. They have personal jurisdiction, and because Kostikian and Goldberg live in New York City,
right. And that's about as much as we're going to willing to tell you about them.
SDNY is suspect regardless of who you are. It's thoroughly political.
Yes.
I mean, they're grabbing cases from all over hell and gone because they want to be the ones to tell whoever it is to get fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they grab a case out of Texas here a while back?
I think they did.
And then try it.
I think they did.
Why is SDNY getting involved in politicized cases from Texas? We don't know, but they say they have the authority to do that, and nobody tried to stop them. Well, nobody of any import to the Southern District of New York, anyway.
Yes,
as those people have frequently been told to get bent.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. September 6, 2016, Cyanide and the defendants entered into the license agreement, which we showed you bits of earlier in the live stream, for the role-playing game Paranoia. The license agreement was amended twice on September 16th and on September 26th, 2017 and July 25th, 2019. Section 8 of the license agreement prescribes a 6-week approval process,
of which Big Ben was attempting to Cyanide originally attempted to Cyanide and Big Ben they attempted to make this approval process shorter. Kostikian and Goldberg were not having it.
No. Blah 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 blah. Plaintiffs were required to commercially launch the game by 1 year after the effective date of August 15th, which was extended by virtue of Amendment 1, and then extended again.
2016, for a game that size, to get it right, you're not gonna be able to do this in a year.
No.
3 years is more reasonable for a game, for even a AA quality game. $5 for a AAA quality game if you've got if you can actually get the funding for it.
Right.
If you're dealing in EA or fucking ActiveBliz, you usually do. Although ActiveBliz is starting to shorten its time frames anyway. Why? Because they're going down.
Yeah.
All aboard the express elevator to hell.
The license agreement.
Anybody in the audience can tell me where I got that quote from.
Yeah. The license.
Do you try me?
No, I'm not trying.
Where did I get that quote from?
I'm not trying.
Well, if you don't watch enough sci-fi, you should recognize that one. Everybody should recognize that one. Twerp. Let's go. Come on.
All right. The license agreement provides that if the plaintiffs if they succeed in launching the digital version of the game by the expansion dates, the license agreement would be extended for 24 months following the commercial launch. If the plaintiffs fail to commercially launch the game, the terms of the license agreement shall expire. And here is where...
If you don't get it done on time, you lose your license.
Yes. Here's where things get squirrely.
Fuckwits.
Here's where things get squirrely. Plaintiffs, Big Ben and Nacon, separately entered into a license agreement with Epic Games, and they intended
without saying anything.
Yeah, without saying anything. That ain't true.
They didn't find out till much later, and then apparently only by accident, because they tried to walk that back to their original short marketing plan.
Mm-hmm.
Morons.
Blah 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 blah.
Because you're looking at the first amended answer at this point,
right?
Am I correct?
No, I'm looking at the complaint.
Or is this the original one?
This is the First Amendment complaint. On or about September 10th, 2019, and pursuant to license Section 8 of the license agreement, they provided an initial version of the game known as Flamingo Staging 1 for their review and approval. And
which failed.
Which failed. They had 6 weeks to approve it. They only took 14 days.
Because the game was shit. There were major software problems.
Right. Now, here is where things get a little bit dicey as far as their quality assurance person is concerned. After September 24th, 2019...
I don't even know what level of QA testing they had on hand. But this is, I think, where they tossed things to, where there was an agreement for a third-party QA team, which then didn't actually go into the software at all, apparently, and the results were not sent to Kostikian and Goldberg as promised.
Right.
It was supposed to be sent directly to Goldberg and Kostikian, and it didn't happen.
Right.
Oh, look, we've still got a few minor bugs, and at least one of them turned out to be huge.
Right.
Game breaking, even.
Mm-hmm. Who hired this guy? Ken Roston.
Ken who?
Ken Roston.
I can't read it. What? How?
Rolston.
Okay. ROL?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Defendants hired him. Okay. And Ken Ralston was one of the folks that worked even on the first edition of Paranoia.
Right. And he later worked on video games such as Oblivion.
Yeah. Ralston did good work, but Ralston was primarily a storyteller, and he was a writer and not and not a rules developer.
Right.
He's the one that turned Paranoia into darkly humorous rather than just fucking dark.
Right. And
Paranoia was originally a tabletop RPG, and it was shit tons of fun. It was hilarious.
right.
Just ask anybody that's been at my table for a Code 7. It's going to cost you all of your clones.
On or about... Yeah.
Because reason. You need one more than you have. All 6 of you.
On or about October 1st, 2019, the plaintiffs hired Paul to win. And then they submitted... And then 15 days later, they submitted Flamingo Staging 2 to the defendants for their review and approval. And Kostikian replied, "Every game ships with minor bugs. We understand that. We are concerned to ensure that upon launch, happiness is mandatory, will be devoid of crash bugs, save bugs, blocking bugs, and ugly interface issues that will make it difficult for new players to progress or play efficiently."
And all of they still have, by the time with the updated with Flamingo 2, they still had all of those and then some.
And plaintiffs understood Mr. Rawson's email to reject to the Flamingo Staging 2.
Yes. Because there was a rejection to be had here.
October 25th, defendant Goldberg stated in an email that we hope and have some reason to believe that the showstopper bugs are an artifact of running the October 16th Epic release on PCs that previously ran versions delivered by Steam. Which means that as of October 25th, Goldberg at least knew that there was a separate version being developed for Epic.
Right. That's because he found out just a few days earlier.
On October 28th.
They learned about that on the 19th.
Right. On October 28th, 2019, they submitted Flamingo Staging 3 to the defendants. And Mr. Rawson.
Timeline for so they could be released by the 14th.
Right.
The 14th of November. Kostikian and Goldberg went, no, we're not going to do that. We need that entire. We need the time in question to do the things. And each time they were presented with an extensive bug list.
Right.
Not Kostikian and Goldberg, Cyanide and Big Ben.
And Mr. Rawson too, apparently. Because after his review, Mr. Rawson concluded that the October 28th, 2019 version was without major bugs. And then Mr. Rawson, acting on behalf of the defendants, which he wasn't allowed to do,
which he was not authorized to do,
stated in a
Goldberg
stated in a November 6, 2019. Yeah. Stated in a November 6, 2019 email that his job to ensure quality assurance was finished, and his opinion was that the game was ready for major release. That is not 6 weeks. That was not 6 weeks.
Not Kostikian or Goldberg, and the license agreement specifies Kostikian and Goldberg.
Right.
And no other person.
Right.
Ralston's opinion goes to Kastikian and Goldberg, and then they all sit, and then
They sit
Kastikian and
down.
Goldberg, they go over it themselves.
Right. Yeah, they confess that they breached the contract.
They confess that they released the game on Ralston's okay. There's a difference.
Right.
This is not formal approval by Kastikian and Goldberg, which is the thing they had to have.
Mm-hmm.
And did not.
Boy. And they hired Quantic, and on November 11th, 2019, they asked for an independent opinion on the quality assurance firm. And they
didn't get that. They got a they got a thing that said, they got a partial thing that said, well, we don't see any problems with the gameplay. Go for it.
Right.
And Big Ben, was Big Ben and Cyanide that hired them.
Right. And they stated on November 25th that the game story could be finished without experiencing any critical defect, with the game being fluent. And they still had some time left on the clock to approve this Flamingo Staging 3.
Kastikian and Goldberg, however, had still not given approval for this thing.
Right.
And as a result, it was released on Epic Game Store under Cloak of Darkness.
Yes.
Referred to as a stealth release. We didn't tell you. Oh, sorry, folks. We didn't tell you. It didn't come up until some weeks later that that it had been released. And Quantic Labs didn't test the things they were supposed to be testing. Either did not test them, or did not report results of that testing.
Right. Again, Nacon says the defendant's representative. No. This is not the way you frame a lawsuit.
You can frame it that way, and that's actually because that's their only actual
that's their only actual claim in this whole situation.
You can frame it that way, but that's going to be their only real defense here.
Right.
Let's see. What does it say? It says were confirmed with defendant Goldberg on December 6th. Though we don't. That's not what they said.
No.
They sent a check, and were confused as to why they got one. No money is due. How do we give this back?
Yeah, and they said and then they got a response 3 days later, saying that the license agreement, that the Big Ben told them that the license agreement had not expired because they launched it on September 9th.
I think the launch date was actually the 5th, but still.
Eh.
They were trying to extend it. They were going for the automatic extension. What they should have done was spoken to Goldberg and Kastikian to try and get an extension of license agreement for further development.
Right.
And at 20,000 euros on the 10th. That's where they were told. That was when Goldberg and Kastikian said, "Hey, you don't owe us anything at this point. What the fuck are you doing? You need to take this back."
Yeah.
Note that is actually that information is missing
in the complaint. In the complaint. The closest they got was paragraph 33. And yeah.
Christmas Day, there was a demand to pull it.
Mm-hmm.
Followed thereafter by a refusal, and thus having their avenues exhausted, a few weeks later decided it was time to just say fuck it and DMCA the game.
Right. And they have three causes of
the copyright Paranoia still exists with Goldberg and Kastikian.
Mm-hmm.
This is a valid use of. This would be a valid use of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
Right. And notice they went for the breach of contract for the first claim of relief.
We're gonna talk. Let's give them a break on this. We were trying to lay foundation here.
Okay.
Then we've got about 20 minutes or so to give remarks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How about you start, Squirrel, and I will be back.
Oh, I see how it is. He's gonna let me rant while he goes and lets the team back out. Okay, so I don't know how many of you people are listening. I'm not actually watching the stream myself. I'm looking at information in fuzzy vision across Discord. But Kastikian and Goldberg did exactly what they should have done to force Big Ben and Cyanide into a courtroom to adjudicate the various material breaches that were involved here. The release of the game was absolutely defined as a material abrogation of the licensing agreement. And as a result, yeah, DMCA was absolutely appropriate. Paranoia is an excellent IP, and but that's my opinion. You might think I'm wrong. I personally, done right, it's absolutely hilarious.
Right. Sorry about that, folks.
Are there rules? There are. There are rules, but you don't know the rules.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know the rules. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. Everybody around you is a traitor, both literally and figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to be paranoid. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And Kastikian and Goldberg were well within their rights to be paranoid of these two packs of idiots. Both of them wholly owned subsidiaries of Nacon.
Mm-hmm.
So Nacon is responsible for buying the lawyers.
Okay.
We're gonna get we'll get down to that. Just give me a second. You left me here to freaking rant.
All right. I'm going to do
I
some.
actually own a copy of this game on the Epic Store. I've played it. It's not what, and it could have been done much better. Okay, despite the bugs that exist, including a couple of the major ones that I ran into trying to play the game, I stopped being able to play the game after a while. Haven't figured out a way around them, and I haven't launched the game in for freaking ever either. And they need to get their shit. They needed to get their shit sorted out. It's just they ran out of time, and the stealth release on Epic was an attempt to extend the game an attempt to extend the license long enough to fix the problems. I think they made, if Kostikian and Goldberg had left that go, they'd have had 2 years to make money on it, despite it being what Goldberg and Kostikian thought was a tarnish on the brand. And frankly, it kind of was. It was good to laugh. It was good to be able to laugh at Friend Computer, but that's beside the point. The game doesn't reflect the reality of Alpha Complex. Yeah, shit got old in a hurry.
Yep.
But besides, when you've got areas that are of higher security clearances, they either paint the walls entirely that color, or if needed, they put a stripe down the middle of the wall. These are specifically described in several different versions of Paranoia. That's not what happened. That in and of itself wasn't the thing that happened. I mean, I admit that painting all the walls black and then running through with red, yellow, or green or violet paint, probably not your best idea.
Okay. Now, I was doing a little bit of mental math.
By the way, back to the console. Back to console platforms. Go for it, Sanji.
All right. The date that Flamingo Staging 3 was submitted to the defendants was October 28th, 2019.
And they were trying to get a release date of November the 14th. This doesn't, in case some people have figured out how to do math, 6 weeks is a month and a half, and they gave them what? They were a few days short of 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
See, yeah, 2 weeks and 3 days. That's not long enough.
No.
Especially if they've got to try to evaluate the entire game for bugs and shit. The first one they got done in 2 weeks because, well, it was shit.
Yes.
They probably couldn't even get through the entire game in that 2 weeks. I know what it takes me to run through a large game ahead of time, and typically I can't finish one of those in 2 weeks. Not when I have other considerations.
Right.
But it was PlayStation 4, maybe the Windows Store, Steam, and possibly the Xbox Marketplace.
Right.
And why are we looking at? Oh, yeah.
They had 6 weeks. They had December 9th.
They would have had to December 9th. This was their last opportunity.
Right.
To get the build done, and the build failed, and Flamingo 3 failed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
At least as far as anybody knows.
Right.
But a November 14th release date was
impractical.
It's unreasonable.
Mm.
I think they used the word impractical, but it just wasn't going to happen. There was no way to do that.
Right.
Not stick to the freaking script. You have a license agreement. You have to give us X amount of time. In fact, is it October the 28th? Yeah, that was the last possible day to submit something to get a release by the second by the second expiration date.
Right. And they failed.
And they failed. It was within the purview of the folks of Kostickian and Goldberg at that point to say, no, this game sucks, and cancel the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And leave Big Ben and Cyanide holding the fucking bag.
Right. As a matter of fact, they did tell them to fuck off, and then this lawsuit
could be able to get that done in the time frame they had, or the time frame that Cyanide and Big Ben were trying to give them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, yeah, is Big Ben and Cyanide doing it right? No.
No.
They did They did almost exactly the same thing to Big Ben or to Kostickian and Goldberg they did to fucking Frogwares.
Right, because they see a shiny IP.
Frogwares was dealt with in a
French court.
Frogwares was dealt with in a French court, which means that the more money you have for the appropriate bribes, the more likely you are to win. The Southern District of New York doesn't like getting caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And if they do get caught with their hand in the cookie jar, there's going to be a major problem. It's the loss of power for them, and they don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, having looked at the documents we have, which is not all of them, mind you, we're going to see about that too. Looking at all the documents, I don't see a path in which Big Ben actually wins here.
No, because the language is clear.
That pooch. The pooch didn't even see it. Didn't even see it coming.
No.
He got hammered into the wall. Has no idea what the hell happened or why. Just no. I would personally like to. I personally want to dig into Kostickian, Goldberg and Kostickian's lawyers. See who they are and what they do, and then refer them to Leonard French for additional assistance.
Right.
Although I don't know if Leonard is admitted to the bar in the Southern District, the federal bar for the Southern District of New York.
Right.
He's a Pennsylvania boy, you see.
Mm-hmm.
That I think they're still in Belgium.
They launched the game. They launched the game on December 6th.
Yep.
They had 3 days left.
At the same time, defendants did not object or state any requests for further modifications. That's it. That's because they weren't told.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know until after the deadline expired.
Right. Where is the evidence that? Yeah.
I was just looking at the first amended response, also known as FAR, and it's actually in there. That information is in there.
They had 3 days.
We don't talk about the problems with not using standard 26-line paper.
Oh, that is a possibility. Give me that.
Most lawyers like the 26-line paper. They're going to take notes right on the thing. Typewritten double-spaced is actually a thing for lawyers.
Yeah.
And publishers. because the editor's got to have whoever it is that's editing or reading it needs to be able to make notes.
Mm-hmm. Where am I? Okay, here we go. Even if
writing standards, people.
Yeah. It goes on in paragraph 35. Even if the defendants believed the license agreement expired, which it did not, plaintiffs would have been entitled to market, distribute, license, and sell the game for a wind-down period of 3 weeks.
No, that's not what it says. The license agreement doesn't say that.
Oh, my mistake. It's 3 months.
Again, it doesn't. Again, it doesn't say that. It says approval or no publish.
Mm-hmm.
No kiss, kiss, no bang, bang.
Right.
Another movie reference, if anybody can figure out which one.
Yeah, I know which one this time.
Well, given that the first one was actually a reference to aliens, as they're in the drop ship headed for LV 426.
Mm-hmm.
It was Hudson, all aboard the express elevator to hell, going down.
Yeah.
I cannot believe you have not seen that movie. Oh.
I think I've seen Aliens 3. That's about it.
Yeah, well, Alien 3 was not. Alien 3 never happened. Go watch Aliens. And don't get me started on that on that quote unquote fourth film. That didn't happen either.
No.
That game was that thing was obnoxious and rude.
All right.
Demolition Man, on the other hand, it did happen, and it was a single movie, and that was a thing that needed to happen. Mm-hmm. No franchise out of Demolition
Man. Right.
It was the Sylvester Stallone comedy. I laughed the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
And I hurt afterwards for 3 days.
Oh.
Is there anything else you want to talk about in the Foundation stream? Real quick, we got 5 minutes.
Actually, no. There's nothing else left. We established the ground. Now we have to till it, and now we have to wait for plants to grow. So.
Yep, we have to. There's a couple things we're waiting for in terms of getting to the actual reading of the wall boot.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna as soon as I can get those problems corrected, we're going to go over these things in some detail.
Yes, this is just a gloss over. This is just a gloss over reading of the lawsuit as it stands now.
We'll get it. We'll get brass tacks in the next live stream, which will be a review of the developer beast.
Yes,
similar to some of those we've done with that we've done in the general direction of Digital Homicide and their law boots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just that we haven't planned out enough time to do a detailed reading today. It's just we need to set some ground right away. And now that we have, it's now the time to end this stream. I'd like to thank you, Squirrel, for joining us here today.
And bringing you the topic.
Yes.
Yes, I will accept responsibility for that. Because this is going to be a whole thing.
Yes. And this may take some extended period of time for us to cover, even if our documents are limited. So if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to plant them down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and share it with everybody you know, and especially with those who don't. And I will see you on the next W2 report.